Morning, folks. Trying to sort out YouTube here again. Don't know what's going on with YouTube these days. Just not cooperating. It appears to be doing what it's supposed to do now, right? $1 Million Man, the great one. Morning, Kennedy Joseph. Morning. I don't know if it's just the YouTube app or if it's my devices, but yeah. Simdom 17, morning, Kennedy Joseph, Alana Gonzalez, morning to you, Marlon Blaze, Merle Durant, morning, Gary Joseph, morning, sir, Leon Joseph, morning, Sedena Koshi, morning to you, see you on Facebook, Marilyn, Wanza Cloud, morning, Marilyn, Marva James, Christopher Coffey, morning, Diane, morning, Jennifer Dorset, morning to you. Claire Carrington, morning. Rudolph Barnett, morning, sir. Claire Irish, morning, Claire. Good morning to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor, and First Lady Mauricia Kagan. Hazel Aline, morning to you. Eva Smith Spivey, morning. Phyllis Antoine, morning, Phyllis. Alison Boyce, morning, Alison. Yeah, Phyllis, I don't know if it's YouTube. Yeah, I tried using my new laptop and it was just buffering, and so I had to come off of that one and then go back to my old one. And yeah, telling me I have to sign in and all kind of craziness. You see, Patty Kutu, morning, Patty. Leon Graves, Arthur, Lucian James, morning, sir. Laverne Brown, morning, Laverne. MR, morning. Joy Ragunanan, morning, Joy. Anne-Marie Charles, morning. Florence Bazzi, morning, Florence. Right, it's already 6:55. I have to come off at 9 o'clock, people. So if you see 9 o'clock approaching and you're trying to call, please, because I have a Zoom call meeting from 9 to 12. Yeah, so stress this morning. Reed Frontin, Sarah Richards, morning. So let me jump into it one time. I don't even think I could cover everything that I wanted to. Let me get this here. So get this here. No, it's not that. Just no, let me get this. Right, so there was a story sometime last week or week before concerning a particular trade union leader who apparently found himself in some legal challenges in the US. And the media would have spoken to it briefly, and then they just drop it like a hot potato, right? And I don't know if it is that these union leaders are trying to start a club of union leaders who are before the courts on charges of a sexual nature. And this particular union leader, so we know it have Mr. Duke from the PSA who has his challenges in Trinidad, 4 counts of and whatnot. Jenny always gives it to us directly. But this other union leader, and I recall, not last week before, I think it was, on I-95.5, the morning show, someone called in, and I think the morning show host Daily Knock had indicated that he was not going to discuss it because, and he know what he doing, and he do have all the information and yada yada yada. So I don't know if he was waiting until he get the information when the story has run cold. There was another media house that indicated they had tried to contact Mr. Anizet, and he did answer the phone, and he indicated that he was in the airport at the time making his way back to Trinidad, and that when he gets back home to Trinidad, he would make a statement. Has been more than a week, and no statement has been forthcoming as far as I'm aware, because I've not seen anything. Maybe it was published and I didn't see it, or perhaps it was carried on the news and I didn't see it. But to the best of my knowledge, yeah. So someone would have sent me, and I don't know if it is that the media wants to pussyfoot around the issue, but someone would have sent me, genuine documents, screenshots of the transcripts from the court itself, right? So it says here, case information, Queen's Criminal Court, case number CR so, defendant Michael Anizet. Judge, so they have the judge there. The 12th of August 2024 at 5 p.m., first appearance was rescheduled to the 13th of August, 9 a.m. The judge is one Edward Daniels. First appearance, the court reporter is Catherine Polizzi. Adjourned temporary order of protection, arraigned, pled not guilty, bail requested by prosecutor, bail status, ROR, which I believe released on own reconnaissance. Then it goes on again. Court, Queen's Criminal Court, case number CR 027653, whoever, defendant Michael Anizet, disappearance of section 1 right. It goes on to say charge PL 130.55, BM 1 count, arrest charge, description, sexual abuse in the 3rd degree, 1 count. 1 count, arrest charge, description, forcible touching of intimate parts, 2 counts. On both counts, he was arraigned and pled not guilty. Then it goes on to say, third part, name, Mr. Anizet. Incident occurred on the 9th of August 2024, arrested on the 11th of August 2024 by Officer NYCPD PCT 103. It says who the defense attorney is, one Shanaz Chowdhury, legal aid. So I guess Mr. Anizet couldn't afford an attorney, and so one was provided for him. They give the address here. Right. So we have all of this information. They have his date of birth and everything on this documents, and these are actual transcripts. But for some reason, the media don't want to talk about that, and I guess Mr. Anizet is probably still in transit, or perhaps his flight was delayed for over a week and he's probably still in the airport in New York, JFK, making his way back to Trinidad. You see, when we have a bacchanalist media, they want to follow up on that. And this is somebody who is advocating for the UNC. This is somebody who has been at the forefront of the trade union for many, many years, albeit his fortunes seem to be diminishing over the last few months, having been removed as the head of the Cement and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, under circumstances that are less than ideal, right? I don't know what his position is with NATUC. Whether he's still there or what it is, I don't know. NATUC operates, But anyway, so I wait to see what the outcome of that is going to be, whether or not the media would revisit that. If they would remember that such a matter took place, if Mr. Daly Enoch is inclined to do his research now and perhaps discuss it now that Tony Lee is back. I don't know, but we will see. We wait to see. Right? But this club, so it's now Mr. Anizet, according to these documents, and Mr. Duke. So let's see who else might be joining the club. Anyway. Palm Gray, you're wicked. You see that? That's Sarah Richards. So good, I'll tell you this morning on Facebook. Call you brutal. You're too wicked. So let me deal in the interest of time with the other pink elephant in the room. I want to be able to, I hope I have enough time to touch on Ralph Maraj's article, the Sunday Express. Because Mr. Maraj overdoing it. Really, really overdoing it now. So the Prime Minister announced on Sunday at the PNM Special Convention, for those of you who attended, I was unable to because I had another prior engagement, so I couldn't attend, unfortunately. But the WMera constituency had its constituency conference on Friday, which I had the pleasure of hosting, and I was the MC for. And it went well. We had a fairly good turnout of government ministers, members of parliament, and so on. Yeah, so the constituency is in good hands. Our feature speaker was Acting Attorney General Stuart Young, and I think his message was most timely, and basically he stressed the point, the urgency and of the membership of the PNM doing what we need to do, right? And there is an assignment for 2025, as the Prime Minister would have announced on Sunday. There is not, contrary to what the UNC is pushing, there's not going to be any snap election in November, right? You don't know where they get that from, but anyway, so they want to try and call the shots, but that's not happening, right? But basically, Stuart Young reminded us of the trauma that Anil Roberts would have inflicted on the constituency of WMera between 2010 to 2014, when he was the Member of Parliament. And to date, the lasting effects of that man's tenure is still felt in certain parts of the constituency, right? Where we still have reports of persons being put out of their homes by a certain religious sect, members of a certain religious sect who just walking into people who are putting them out. And when they go to the police to make reports, the police basically telling them, hey, what's not? They tell me, because we come and put them out, but then they will just come back and do it again and terrorize you until they get fed up. So if they could find somebody else to live. I mean, come on. Really? Really? That's how it's works? All of this is because that loudmouth lout who is now offering himself for St. Joseph, the seat of St. Joseph, the constituency of St. Joseph, right? The way that he would have conducted himself when he was Member of Parliament by enabling these people in what they did. As I told you all in 2013 when I contested the local election, the things that I was told by persons during my walkabout, right? Persons who were being terrorized, persons who were telling you they go into his office, the office is supposed to close at 4, and then they reach there early 3:30 and stuff. They're being told the office is closed, they're not seeing anybody else. And when they're trying to press home the point that, well, it says that the office is supposed to close at 4, you have men brandishing guns and telling them, hey, we tell you the office closed, go, come back another day, and all of these different things. Persons who would have walked with this individual, this clown, during the general election of 2010, right? Persons affiliated with the United National Congress, and they knew all the nooks and cranny to take him to, and all the promises that he made. And several of these persons who didn't have two nickels to rub together, some of them got as much as 2 HDC housing units in the constituency, in the Malabar area there, just opposite the Larry Gomes Stadium, where, behind there is Poyo, which they abandoned for 5 years, 3 months and 14 days. But to the right of the stadium there, going into Malabar, proper on that side, you have some housing developments right before the traffic light there. I remember some of these guys, when they abandoned him and they came to join Mr. Warner, and they were telling us the things, the stories. A man, I told you all about it before. This guy, every evening, he conducted the walk. At the end of the walk, the boss, I could get a little 20. The boss, I could get a little wet throat. I had no money and nothing in my house to eat. But I have 2 HDC units. Thanks to who? He. That's how they were distributing housing units when they were in office. Right? Patronage, yeah. Man couldn't afford one, but he get 2. And then every evening come to ask me for $20. Just by working with him during the general election of 2010, several of those persons got HDC homes that they couldn't afford. But he wants any. I'm active of the coat of arms. which is causing quite a stir and people vex, which is to be expected. I'm not surprised at all. In fact, the opposition to this announcement by the Prime Minister has taken on several different dimensions. So you have those who vex talking about, what money will cost to make that change, because you had to change it on all official documents and your passport, and you had to change it on your ID card and your driver's permit, and then you have to change the coat of arms and the money too, and that going to cost millions and millions of dollars, and the country don't have that money and we can't afford that right now. All of a sudden, they know that the government don't have money. But for the last 9 years, when the government was telling you all about the country's political plight, the country's financial plight, the challenges that this administration would have faced with respect to revenue, almost immediately upon coming into office, with the precipitous decline in the price of oil and gas, which started in 2014 under the People's Partnership. But then, as is the norm with that party, tried to kick the issue down the road and to minimize it by telling you, well, don't worry, Trinidad and Tobago, is the price of oil falling, and Trinidad and Tobago is really a gas province. We are really a gas producing nation. We are a gas-based economy, and we get it, and the gas, our gas position is good. Yeah, so don't worry all yourself. Don't study that. Why? So that they could continue the type of spending that they were engaging in, right? The wasteful spending that they were engaging in, that this administration had to contend with and inherit when they came in. That unfortunately the People's Partnership had gotten this, the citizenry, the wider citizenry, those who are most inclined to depend on the state, had gotten them accustomed to $60 to $65 billion budgets every year, something that was unheard of prior to them coming into office. And I always make the point that the late great Patrick Manning, as Prime Minister, right, built so many things without $60 and $65 billion budgets. They came into office in 1 2, spending $60, $63, $64, $65 billion, right? And the population got accustomed to that type of expenditure and what it could give them. But they weren't concerned, and nobody was asking where the money coming from. Yes, the price of oil and gas was high for the majority of their term. But they kept running deficit budgets for the entire 5 years, 3 months and 14 days that they were in office, was deficit budgets, which means that they were spending more than they were earning. But all of these quasi-armchair economists now who want to criticize this government between 2010 to 2015, when we were running deficit budgets every year and the government was spending more than they were earning, nobody was asking where the difference coming from. How are you funding the difference? They weren't asking that question, right? But all of a sudden they get bright now and know about debt and the country's debt profile and debt to GDP. They know about all of that. But between 2010 to 2015, they were ignorant of these things, couldn't care less where the difference was coming from. And it was right there in their face, the Auditor General's report every year. But they didn't know about Auditor General's report between 2010 to 2015 either, but all of a sudden they get bright. They know about Auditor General's report now, and they could tell you the name of the Auditor General. But prior to 2015, or up to 2015, that didn't exist. So all of them now is not the right time to do that. Now is never the right time to do anything in Trinidad. Under Mr. Manning, when he wanted to do the rapid rail, now is not the time for that. He wanted to, even building Napans, now is not the time for that. Build the Brian Lara, now is not the time for that. Right? It's never the time. Never, ever in this country, it is never the right time to do anything for the macro development of this country. The focus is always on, it had too much poor people. The state of the healthcare system. So spend money on not giving a hand up to the poor and the struggling and the destitute. Give them handouts. So CNC3 last night ran another story. I come into it's late, but CNC3 last night, as has become the norm every week, running a story on poor people in Trinidad. So last they ran a story on a young lady who has made a career of begging outside Grand Bazaar. And she indicated that she has been doing that since age 11, when her father would have introduced her to begging. So basically, the father had a set of children, and he would take them every day. Oh, like, come, we go in here. You go, you beg in here, you beg in here, you beg in there. Right. That is how he was earning a living, by pimping out his children to go and beg. So CNC3 ran that story last night, and the young lady said she has a speech impediment because of a cleft palate and whatnot. But she has kids, huh? She has children. Nothing wrong with that. She said the husband had some serious injury, questionable. So therefore he can't work. So she has to come out there every day in the hot sun with these children. Unfortunately, this blazing hot sun. If I just wind on my window for a little bit, it's pressure. So I don't know how she making it out all day out there with an umbrella and these two children in this blazing sun. It's ridiculous. And people seeing that situation obviously will be minded to help. If I pass and see, I'd probably give her some money too. But it's something that we should not be doing because you're enabling her to now come and continue to do that. Meanwhile, she's begging outside a facility that is owned by the very same owners of CNC3. Grand Bazaar, which is owned by the Ansa Makal Group, collecting rent from all of these stores. I don't think there's an empty store, an empty stall in Grand Bazaar. So they're collecting full rent every month from all of their tenants. They have banks inside there. I think FCB has a ATM. Republic Bank has a whole branch inside there, and so on. So they're making money. They pay no property tax because you can see no property tax. So all of this money that they're collecting, and they're running these stories every week, deliberately, purposefully going out to find these poor people, these destitute people, to highlight the struggles in Trinidad and Tobago under the current government. And meantime, while she begging outside Grand Bazaar, them collecting rent. Millions and millions of dollars every month in rent. Why do help her? Instead of putting her up on television for all and sundry to see. She's already begging, but you want to come and strip her of whatever little dignity she has left by highlighting this. And she has to give her whole life story. So, I mean, I saw it last night. I felt sorry for the young lady, because you can see, she says she has no education. She has no passes or whatever. She has no job because even if she gets a job, she says she has nobody to look after her children. So she is between a rock and a hard place. So she has to take her children with her to beg. But of course, that helps her circumstance because people will feel sorry for the children. But I am saying CNC3 could help. Guardian Media could help. Ansa Makal could help. Yes, you're happy to boast $500 and something and $600 million plus every year in profits after tax. In fact, I think they're ahead of where they were for the same period last year. Help these people. The young lady don't even have a cell phone, so she had to give them her neighbor's number. So if you want to help her, call the neighbor. But you're so concerned about her plight, but so you highlighted it, and as you move on, go out and find the next poor person for us to exploit next week. And leave that. And I am saying that if you have people, as I said it last week, persons who don't have the kind of money that the Sackler family has, right? And will never have that kind of money. These people have money to last generations. They will never be able to spend all the money that they have. They continue to make more and more money every day, every month, every year. So what they have continues to grow. So they could more than help. But everybody's government. When you read the comments when the story was carried in the newspaper on Facebook, and you read the comments, this is where the social development supposed to come in. And as the government supposed to have things in place to help these people. What about the private sector? These people spending the kind of money they're spending to buy one vehicle could build about 10 houses for persons like this young lady. I shudder to think where she lives, right? But I am sure even one member of that family probably driving a vehicle, Range Rover and stuff costing over $1 million because they have the dealership for that too. They can't help her. So when you see this story, it doesn't appeal to you. It doesn't pull at your heartstrings. So how is it that is the poor people and the average citizen seeing these stories and it pulls at their heartstrings and they will reach out and help? Somebody who might have seen that story last night, she don't have a phone, might decide, let me go and buy some groceries and I will go and give it to her today. That is a possibility. I'm sure it would happen, right? Some people are not aware that she is there and may deliberately decide, I want to help these people. And I'm certain the people who would do that don't have the kind of money that the Sackler family has. You all could bring this woman out of poverty. The man you highlighted last week and the person before and the person before that. And it's not going to kill you because probably in one day you're going to make back that money out of any one of the hundreds of companies that you own locally and abroad. But instead, highlight these people. To one, what? Make the government look bad? To say the government not doing? They're not doing enough. But you know what I was saying? Look, yeah, they want to change. They want to spend a certain money to change the coat of arms. And you have poor people like that suffering. and things hard and the economy collapse and all that stupid talk. And this is my problem. We don't hold the private sector to account and to understand that they too have a role to play in the development of the country. It's not just the government and the government. Everything in this country is the government. But average citizens will go and help. And the people who have the deep pockets. So on Facebook, well, this week, last couple of days, was the highlight. Somebody bring down a Rolls Royce. The first and only one of its kind in Trinidad and Tobago. And everybody know the price, how much millions it cost, and how much hundreds of thousands of pounds. I think somebody said 400,000 pounds, which would mean $4 million TT. And they want to know where the person get the US dollars to buy this, as if US is the only foreign currency it has. Right? They focusing on that, but the economy collapse. But you have people who could afford that type of vehicle. That's just one. That's just to bring it. When it is that the vehicle needs servicing, who's servicing it? We don't have a dealership here. So how it's servicing? When you have to buy parts, you know what the parts will cost for that? Quite a bit. Right? Yeah. People with deep pockets like that could do that. Who can help these persons? We ain't talking that. The government. But they come in with it, you know. It's only a matter of time. Don't worry. They will do, CNC3 will do their what people say things. And next time, and you hear somebody talk about that. Yeah. The government will not spend how much money, and that's all the focus. How much money going to spend to do this and to change that? I am certain there is going to be, and there would be a moratorium period for the changeover of these things. I don't think that the government will tell somebody who just changed their passport 2 weeks ago or a month ago that they need to come in again to change to the new to a passport with the new coat of arms. So they could put it in law that these documents, if it is recent, or any document that would have been acquired, let's say more than a year ago as a case, and has it still has a period of time on its validity, could probably run its course. If it is in the law that says documents that bear the old coat of arms are still legal and valid documents, that's all they need to do. And when they run their course and they expire, you just renew under the new coat of arms. But they're making it this big thing, how much money you have to spend, and hundreds of millions of dollars. But that's just one element of argument. The other one, according to the leader of the opposition, is that to do so, according to her, has the potential to create racial tensions. How we reach there, Lord alone knows. Let me see if I get this here. Let me see if she posted it on her Facebook page. Is she even in the country? I don't know. But let me get it here. All right. But I think it is here. Yes. Kamala warns coat of arms change a sensitive topic. Opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar believes that while some of the history behind Christopher Columbus has to be revisited, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's promise to remove his ships from this country's coat of arms needs to be carefully thought out. This is because she believes, if not handled properly, it can ignite racial tensions in Trinidad and Tobago. How? The Steelpan, you know why in her mind it will create racial tensions? Because they associate the Steelpan with being persons of African descent. That is the unfortunate thing. And they are going to culture their supporters to think in the same manner, those who don't already think so. And that is most unfortunate, right? What makes the Steelpan something about associated with Africa or persons of African descent? You know why? It's because the person who invented it, was of African descent. So they don't see it as an indigenous instrument to Trinidad and Tobago. Forget the race of the person who invented it. Forget that. It was created in Trinidad and Tobago. So whether it was a Chinese man, an East Indian man, a Syrian man, whoever, that should not factor at all when it comes to the Steelpan. So anybody who's seeking to associate the Steelpan specifically to a particular race, something wrong with you. But we know that is what Satmaraj did. Her guru. Talk, Sat, talk. You remember? Yeah, while the East Indian children beat in book, African children beat in pan. Today, the East Indian children beat in pan too. And they beating the African and them two playing it when it comes to the school's panorama. I wonder if Sat was alive today, what he would have said. But for the first thing to come out of the mouth of the opposition leader is that it has the potential to create racial tensions. If ever you wanted a reason not to vote for Kamala Persad-Bissessar in the next general election, to me, that is it. Because what she is doing there is sowing seeds of discord from early. That is craziness. So it tells me that she doesn't see the Steelpan as a national instrument. She sees it first and foremost as an instrument associated with people who have slave master names. And therefore, if you put the Steelpan, which is the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago, not the national instrument of the Africans of Trinidad and Tobago. It is the country's national instrument on the coat of arms. I don't see no problems with that. I don't see why that has to create any racial tensions. Well, let me continue. This is because she believes if not handled properly, it could ignite racial tensions. In a statement yesterday addressing the plan to remove the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria from the national emblem and replace them with the Steelpan, Persad-Bissessar acknowledged that Columbus was wrongfully celebrated for some time. However, she said she is of the belief that sanitizing history, truth, and free speech in the modern era of wokeness, virtue signaling, and cancel culture will only promote ignorance and foster the repetition of evil acts in the future that can be preventable. Persad-Bissessar said erasing history by removing symbols will not improve or change citizens' understanding of history, adding that the nation's true history should be taught in our schools, one that provides the good and bad of all historical figures. The truth of our past and present is bitter and harsh and should not be manipulated to serve any singular agenda. Instead, it should be used to enlighten successive generations so they will not repeat the mistakes and misdeeds of the past. Persad-Bissessar said. However, Persad-Bissessar said people are not recognizing what she believes to be the PM's intention to use painful historical events for general election campaigning. Says the woman who had the audacity and the temerity to tell Camille Robinson Regis, I have my ancestor's name. What you have? You have the name of your slave master. But she has the temerity to come now and talk about what does she says there? She believes that the PM's intention to use painful historical events. Really? Painful historical events? That didn't occur to you when you made that dirty, nasty statement, that reprehensible statement. That didn't occur to you, that slavery was painful. Did you care about how persons with slave master names would feel when you made that statement? No, you didn't care. You doubled down and tripled down on it, and then your fully done supporters decided to come and do the same thing. I continue. She said, Rowley is following the playbook of former politicians to use the threat of the white man and colonialism to deflect from this country's internal issues. Many people are engrossed in debating the changes to the coat of arms and many possible practical effects of such change. This entire political conversation, starting with the proposed changes to the coat of arms, is a tinderbox that can be ignited when emotions run high and ignorant, unscrupulous persons begin gaslighting the population. Madam, you are describing yourself. Let me repeat that. This entire political conversation, starting with the proposed changes to the coat of arms, is a tinderbox that can be ignited when emotions run high and ignorant, unscrupulous persons begin gaslighting the population, which is exactly what you are doing. So if you don't recognize that, something wrong with you. This is how ethnic rivalries, societal strife, and hate are stirred up in a primarily peaceful multicultural society like ours, which can then devolve into violence and destroy our societal peace. And we have seen this all over the world before. By what? By what? Removing 3 ships? Columbus family living here? Columbus has so many generations here. He's Abraham. He's Israel. When he left here, he left 12 tribes so that his family would be upset. And they represent the majority of the society. So if you remove the 3 ships, that what they're going to fight with the rest of the country? What absolute rubbish. Nonsense. But this is her position. But her supporters talking about referendum and we need to have a consultation on this, and Rowley feels he's a king and an emperor and he just make a decree that he is going to change it without consulting the population to see how they feel. You all for real? You can't be serious. The irony of ironies is that Dr. Rowley made that statement at an event to present a document produced out of consultation on constitutional reform. You can't be serious coming now to talk about referendum and you want consultation. You had the opportunity to consult on this issue months ago. The Constitution Reform Committee went from constituency to constituency over a period of weeks, months. And every time it was carried on the evening news, the nightly news, the committee met, Port of Spain City Hall, 17 people showed up. They went to Sangre Grande, 18 people showed up. They went to Point 14, 32 people showed up, right? And those were the numbers that were being reported at every meeting because the wider citizenry in this country didn't care to go and make their voices heard. You all weren't interested in consultation. But all of a sudden now you want consultation. Last time we had a local government election. Over 1 million people eligible to vote. Just over 300,000 of them decided to vote. So over 1 million ballots were printed. And just over 300,000 of those over 1 million ballots were used. So over 700,000 ballots had to be destroyed. You all weren't concerned about the money that was spent for that. You weren't concerned about that money. Over 700,000 citizens couldn't care less to go and vote. Some of them, the employer gave them 2 hours off, time off to go and vote. They didn't go, they didn't utilize it. But the law says you're entitled to 2 hours. Whether or not you go and vote. So your employer, when you come the next day, can ask you, let me see your index finger. It's your choice to exercise your franchise or not. So you're telling me if it is the local government election to select somebody to represent you, to treat with issues, in some cases your personal issues in your neighborhood, you didn't think that was important enough to go and cast your ballot, to exercise your franchise, referendum. You didn't think that was important, but you want to call now for referendum. You feel referendum cheap? There's an expenditure to that too. So the government must now what? Accede to these calls of people who just plain smart with foolishness and hold a referendum, spend a set of money, and then what? 50,000 of you all show up? For what? That making sense? I give Dr. Rowley full right. We gave you all an opportunity for consultation. We gave you all the opportunity. You had, and you can't say that it was limited. They went all over the country. Wherever you're living, they were there. They had meetings. You didn't see it fit to show up. So don't come now to talk about referendum and consultation. I didn't consult. There was consultation. You didn't care to participate. So I don't blame the government. No consultation. Forget about that. The time for that has already passed. But I take strong offense to this political leader talking this nonsense. But let me play something for you. Because she isn't the only one speaking on that front, right? And somehow CNC3 always knows the right people to go to ask these questions. I'm going to get this. I don't know how many of you all looked at the news, guys. Listen to this piece of nonsense from a professor, right? Listen to this piece of nonsense. Let's get this. So, let me just put this thing on so it can be heard properly. Get this. Men and women of letters. Right. This is Dr. Jerome Tilak-Singh speaking last night on CNC3 News.
Yes, we use the Steelpan, but couldn't we have used the Tassa also? Couldn't we have put, the Tassa on that coat of arms?
The history lecturer said while the Tassa is not indigenous to this country, it's still played at national events and is part of national culture. But the historian is also not okay with the removal of the ships. Dr. Tilak-Singh posits that future generations will have a distorted version of their past.
Students in the primary school, they wouldn't know about who were the people who came to Trinidad and, started this momentum that resulted in slavery and apprenticeship.
Dr. Tilak-Singh said this does not mean the ships should be worshipped, but they should also not be forgotten. Akash Samaru, CNC3 News.
No, the ships need to be forgotten. Dr. Tilak-Singh as a historian. That's the most garbage I have ever heard, right? Professor. So we need to put the tassa too. Put the tassa. If you put in the steel pan, you need to put the tassa alongside the steel pan, according to Dr. Tilaksin. Why? Because you don't want one half or so of the population who identify as East Indian to feel slighted. Because somehow, some twisted-minded persons decided to make the steel pan an African instrument. While the wider society recognizes that the steel pan is the national musical instrument of Trinidad and Tobago, right? And the only thing that makes it African is because an African invented it. Yeah? Because for years, because of the stigma that was associated with the steel pan, persons of East Indian descent chose to disassociate themselves from it, right? Remember back in the Bajan days and stuff when steel pan clash and all kind of thing. Yeah, that is for them, the natives. Yeah, them, that's for them. So we're not associating ourselves. Nobody forced you. Nobody said don't participate. But because of the stigma and the persons who were involved in it, well, let us say we don't want no part of that. So now those days are gone, and the steel pan has now been recognized worldwide. So everybody playing it, regardless of race, everybody playing it. But in Trinidad, where it was born, we have an issue, or certain people have an issue with it because they choose to make it something associated with persons of African descent. Shame on Dr. Tilaksin. Shame on you for talking that rubbish. That we need to. Well, okay. So what about the Chinese? Huh? You don't think that if you put the steel pan and the tassa, the Chinese will be offended? Even those Chinese born in Trinidad. What about the Syrian Lebanese community? Plenty of them born here too. So you don't think we should put an instrument associated with them on the coat of arms too? What about those of Portuguese descent? What about them? Should we add something too? Because we have so many different ethnicities in Trinidad and Tobago, and we don't want anybody to feel slighted. So let's just create a coat of arms that just consists of musical instruments associated with every ethnicity in Trinidad and Tobago so that nobody could feel bad. The foolishness. While we can state definitively that the tassa is associated with a particular ethnicity, the same cannot be said for the steel pan. And I would challenge Pasari Sasa and I would challenge Tilaksin, any one of them to come and say to us, what is the basis upon which, other than the fact that it's a person of African descent that invented it, what is the basis upon which you associate the steel pan as being something that is particular to persons of African descent, rather than see it? And so when they're talking about it could inflame and whatnot, racial tensions and so on, these are the people who talk in that talk and sowing these seeds when they make these statements. And shame on CNC3 for reaching out to these people to make these statements, and then that is what you focus on, because I am certain Tilaksin would have said other things in his interview, but we cut out that piece. We cut out that piece. So now we can have that conversation. And those who are so inclined to come and say, well, yes, well, you need to put the tassa too, so that the East Indian community wouldn't feel slighted. What about the members of the East Indian community who embrace the steel pan as being theirs? As citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, they're not concerned about ethnicity, that I am of East Indian descent, and therefore I see the steel pan as being something that is national. It's Trinidad and Tobago, right? They don't see the race in it, but the leader of the opposition, just like when it is Camille Robinson Regis called her name, her full name, and for 9 days she had no issue with it. For 9 days, nobody in the UNC had an issue with it. But as soon as she decided to blow the racial dog whistle and she felt offended, all of a sudden her potongs and them started coming around because they realized the leader vexed and the leader upset and the leader is offended because Camille Robinson Regis called out her full name. And because she decided to make it a racial thing, her potongs decided to do the same thing, and all of a sudden an issue was created. Right? But it took them 9 days. So she come now with this dotishness about it has the potential, just changing, removing the 3 ships and replacing it with the steel pan. Right? Because I am sure that abroad, when people speak about the steel pan and where it originated, there's no talk about race. So in the other countries that have embraced the steel pan, they see it, hey, this is something from Trinidad and Tobago. They say, This is from the African community of Trinidad and Tobago. For Mrs. Prasad Bisesa to say what you said, there's a slap in the face of people like Jit Samaru. And if he was still around, should probably go on it a slap for talking rubbish. Anybody who's supporting that argument, all you're on bull spit. Shame on you all. But they always like to talk about is the PNM that blowing the racial dog whistle. And we need to preserve history. Well, first of all, the history is wrong. With respect to the 3 ships, as we were taught, that Columbus came here on 3 ships called the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Right? That is what we were taught growing up in primary school. And that those 3 ships there, that is the 3 ships that represent the 3 ships that Columbus came to Trinidad, or that he discovered Trinidad with. But if you do your research, you will see that those are the 3 ships that Columbus sailed on his first voyage in 1492. Right? The Santa Maria, which was also called the Santa Maria Immaculada de Concepcion, right? After St. Mary of the Immaculate Conception. That was the largest of the 3 ships. Then you had La Pintada, shortened to La Pinta, meaning the painted lady, but marked reference to prostitute. So the crew was inclined to basically associate the ship as the prostitute. And then you had La Nina, also called Santa Clara. Those are the 3 ships that he sailed on his first voyage with. And on Christmas Day in 1492, the largest of the 3 ships, the Santa Maria de Gallega, ran aground and sank, leaving him with the 2 caravels, which was the Pinta and the Nina. On his second voyage, he had 17 ships, and on the 3rd voyage, he had 6 ships. When he supposedly discovered Trinidad, and the ships that he would have come this side of the world with, in 1498, July the 31st of 1498, was another vessel called La Santa Maria de Guia, and 2 other ships called the Vaqueños and the Correos, not the Pinta and the La Nina. Those ships who had been retired. So we were taught that he came here with the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, when in fact it was 3 different ships on what he sailed with in 1492. One of them happened to be renamed the Santa Maria, but the other 2 was the Vaqueños and the Correos, not what we were taught. So even that history is wrong. And Professor Tilok Singh ought to know that as a historian. And maybe these are the things that you should be telling people. Instead of, well, we need to put the tassa next to the pan. Because we're trying to avoid racial tensions. What utter rubbish. Foolishness. That is the seeds that is sowing in the minds. You know what? They're going to go into general election with that nonsense. That we're only trying to slight the East Indian community. And that putting the Steelpan on the coat of arms is a slap in the face of the East Indian community. Because that is an African instrument. That came from Africa. They admit that the tassa is not even indigenous to Trinidad and Tobago, but let us put an instrument that belongs to another land. Let us put it on our coat of arms. Because we're trying to be politically correct. And we don't want to offend the persons who are probably not even offended. But that is the history that we want to teach. That is the history we want to teach, and the seeds that we want to sow. What can I say? Oh boy. And someone has said me here, Kamala is confusing the reclamation of history with the erasure of history. So she feels that if it is that you remove the 3 ships, that is going to erase history, right? And Tilok Singh talking nonsense. If you remove the 3 ships, then the future generations would know. What foolishness? Really? I am sure if CNC3 or TV6 were to go and do their what town say, walk around the place and ask people, so you know what the symbols and the coat of arms mean? They can't tell you. They can't tell you. Some of them probably now know for the first time what the 3 ships represent. Some of them probably even recognize, hey, I didn't know that 3 ships there. I bet you. Ask them what are the 2 birds. They can't tell you. Right? The breastplate on top, ask them what that represents. They can't tell you. They don't know. And couldn't care less. But all of a sudden, we're up in arms now. And that's the only thing that the leader of the opposition could have come and say. So once upon a time, we weren't doing enough for the Steelpan. Now the government doing too much. So the Steelpan was proclaimed that as this country's national musical instrument. They finally should have stopped there. Don't take it any further. So now Rowley is bordering on the ridiculous, the inane, that he wants to go now to put the Steelpan. Have you all seen one of the possible, the artist rendition of what it could look like? As Jenny would have mentioned on her program, Let Me Talk the Thing. Since July, when that rendition first surfaced, when it is that the government made the announcement that they were going to declare the Steelpan as the country's national musical instrument, and some artists decided to came up with the idea. And I wouldn't doubt the fact that perhaps Dr. Rowley might have seen that and felt, this making sense and so on, that might have contributed to his decision. But since July, we would have posted that on the page. So it's been there. You see how good that looking? No, but let us preserve the three ships and what it represents. Columbus. What was so great about? So tell us, what was so great about Christopher Columbus? Well, he discovered. You know what that means? Discovered? Okay. He discovered Trinidad. All right. What else? Well, the rest is a bit sordid. We don't really want to talk about that part. But we'll just leave it at he discovered Trinidad. All right. But when he came here, he didn't meet anybody. It was just virgin territory. He introduced people to the island. Just like when he went to Dominica too, which he supposedly discovered on his second voyage and found the Kalinago people there. He discovered. Yeah? So let's talk about Columbus. And imagine I saw some clown post up on Facebook. Christopher Columbus, if you do a search, is the ninth most influential person in history. The ninth most influential person in history. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we're trying to get rid of him. Influential how? Really? That's your perception? Influential? In almost every territory that Columbus touched. Right? It's not his history is not positive. As vice versa. Anyway. That's their political leader. But here the thing she's talking already, right? And as you know, the fully dons who support her are going to take that talking point and they're going to run with it. And so we're going to hear more and more people calling for them to put the tassa with the pan. You can't have it one way. It can't be the pan alone. Let us not see it as the national instrument for all of Trinidad and Tobago, regardless of your ethnic background. Let us not see it as that. Let us see it as the national instrument of Tobago, of Trinidad and Tobago, that was created by someone of African descent, and that in its early years, it was embraced more by persons of African descent, and because other ethnicities, on their own volition, chose to disassociate themselves from it because of what they perceived, the negative stigma that was associated with it, and they were above that, That is for the riffraff, the African riffraff. So let them keep that. But now, we happy, we proud. Yeah, that is national instrument all over the world. Yeah, then we proud. Let me go again. Right. Give me 1 second.
What's the answer?
No, we want to hear you. Go in again. That's not. Give me 1 sec. Let me get this here. Where is it? Everybody had to put in their 2 pence and then some. What's the time there? Professor Audacity, not to be left out.
Don't let Rowley distract all you. The focus shouldn't be on Columbus ships, but the SSTT Titanic that's sinking fast. This is nothing but a diversion for us to study who was in charge of ships that sailed 500 years ago, when it is really about who captaining our ship right now for the past 9 years. The economy, employment, healthcare, and education don't fall apart, and crime taking lives by the crop. So all this violin music about who's supporting the removal and who is not is just noise. So he and his band of thugs can bully their way onto lifeboats, abandoning the sinking ship like rats.
So that he and his band of thugs. Who is his band of thugs? The people who support the BNM and Dr. Rowley. I hope all those of you who Captain Audacity is courting for your vote come 2025, remember, he felt proud to post this on his Facebook page and to refer to you as a band of thugs abandoning the ship and running for the lifeboats like rats. Remember that. Then he goes on further to say, this excuse for a leader prioritizes removing 3 ships from the coat of arms instead of being concerned that he's the captain of the sinking ship known as the TT Titanic, with lives being lost daily and citizens jumping overboard in desperation, while the Balize violinists continue to play their music on the deck pretending as if all is well. So says Captain Audacity. I'm going to go again. Let me get this one here. Where is it? What was the response of the other nuisance? Get it here. In Shan Ishmael. First, change every creed and race finds an equal place, Rowley. Let me read that again. First, change every creed and race finds an equal place, because in his mind, in Trinidad and Tobago, every creed and race doesn't find an equal place, because I guess he too believes that the Steelpan represents only one particular race. He then goes on to say, Rowley, please change the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria on the coat of arms to a jackass to truly reflect the government. Right? As in Chinese. Let me get another one for you. Where is it? Let me get this here. I want to show you. I just wanted to show you all.
Conference as of now.
I just wanted to show you all the power of social media. Where is it? Why isn't this thing coming up? So this individual who goes by the name of Randy Matadine, he posted, since the PNM has decided to change the coat of arms on its own decision, why not put donkeys on the emblem? It will represent the over 320,000 jackasses that support them. And that was shared over 1,500 times. Over 1,500 persons in this country felt that was something worthy of sharing. Since the PNM has decided to change the coat of arms on its own decision, Mr. Matadine. So you weren't aware that consultation on constitutional reform was taking place over a period of months earlier on this year, right? No. Probably because you had your head too far up Kamala's K-Pax that you didn't know that was taking place on their own decision. Why not put donkeys on the emblem? And it will represent the over 320,000 donkeys that support. That is what Mr. Matadine thinks. Right? That's what he thinks of the 320,000 people who voted for the PNM in 2020. And there are plenty more like that. But over 1,500 times that has been shared in this less than 24 hours. To me, that speaks volumes. Right? The government has not articulated how this thing is going to work yet. We just got a preliminary, a skeletal framework of what is going to happen over the course of the 6 months. The Prime Minister says this, he wants this change made by September 24th, Republic Day, and so on, which should be ideal. But in terms of the other aspects of it, how it's going to roll out, the time frame and so on, other than the 6 months, which was mentioned for stationery and so on, which is printed by the government printry, by the way, right? But in that 6 months time, whatever stationery, letterheads and so on you would have with the existing coat of arms, you could use that up. And then the printry would be given instructions once the new design. We haven't been told how the new design would come about, who is going to do it and so on, and all of these different things. But that is going to cause another hornet's nest, because whoever it's awarded to, you will hear them. How much they pay for that? What was the procurement? Did that go out to tender? All these things you're going to hear. Don't worry, they're coming. Soon enough, they're going to call us Sunday morning, waste our time, half a question press conference to talk that talk. Make no mistake about it. What's going on here just now, folks? What is happening here? Right. Yeah, they're coming to talk that foolishness very soon. Right? But let me address something. I don't think I'll have time for Ralph Maraj this morning, so I'll leave Ralph for Thursday morning. Right? Because Ralph need a whole hour for himself, for me to address him and his nonsense. You see this talk they keep coming with about the economy and the economy collapse and the economy in shambles. Absolute rubbish. And every time they talk that dotishness, and I ask them, provide us with the evidence that the economy collapsed. They want to pivot to something else. Where is your evidence that the economy has collapsed? If this is a collapsed economy, well, I would hate to see I would love to see what a thriving economy looks like. Because when it is that you have citizens who could spend, one citizen, probably I'm sure they have others, who could afford to spend $4 million plus to bring down a Rolls Royce. That tells me that can't be. I don't see how you could be in an economy that has collapsed. Right? When it is that you have local car dealerships that selling brand new cars, not roll on, roll off, not foreign used, brand new cars telling you sales, record sales. Sometimes you want a vehicle and you have to wait a month and more for the next shipment to come in because what they have in stock has already been sold out. It's just to have it licensed. When you have banks reporting consumer loans, record, right? They're seeing significant increases in consumer loans. How are these people paying back the loan in a collapsed economy? If the economy collapsed, they're not supposed to have jobs. But the bank giving loans, how are they buying vehicles? All over the country, you're seeing new businesses springing up. And as I keep making the point, these businesses are not content to just go and look for an existing space in a mall or something to rent a space in. They're building their own buildings. So Starbucks, say when I said the most recent one that they opened downtown on Independence Square, right? So I think that building was for sale. I don't know if they purchased it or if they rent or if they lease it. Probably purchase it because on the highway there, the KFC by QREP Junction there, where they have QREP and Pizza Hut and so on. Prestige Holdings recently bought out that building, I think, for some $18 million, I guess, after years of renting. So now they own that facility. If you're coming down the highway, and I can speak for the East-West corridor, right? I'm sure it have other things taking place in other parts of the country. But you're coming down the highway, where Extra Foods just recently opened this massive grocery there. And then right behind, you now have a new mall going up right behind there in Arangwest, just off of the highway. And you see they have a big sign with all of the different businesses that are going to be going there. Nobody is going to spend their money to build a facility like that unless they're certain they're going to get tenants. Otherwise, you're wasting your money, right? So they are confident. They probably have tenants. Eastgate Mall, the newest mall in the East, right? Which opened, what? Not so long, probably about just over a year or so ago, right? It was almost fully tenanted. At least the last time that I was there. It's probably fully tenanted by now, right? New mall, huge mall. They built that because they knew they would get tenants. Every time you go there, the car park in front, ram out. Go inside there. Everybody, the mall's so nice. What are they going to do? Window shop? But money spent, money making. All over the country, you're seeing these kind of things taking place. Frontier Airlines just started offering flights to Puerto Rico, and so too Caribbean Airlines. Last week or so, early last week, I saw a video on Facebook when tropical storm or hurricane Ernesto affected Puerto Rico. Saw a video with over 100 trainees stranded in the airport in Puerto Rico trying to make their way back to Trinidad. Over 100 of them, right? For that week. But they're suffering. The economy in collapse. I didn't know that Frontier Airlines was providing free airfare. So that you want to go to Puerto Rico, just come and jump on a flight now. We take it for free. Right? And then when you get to Puerto Rico, your hotel accommodation too. But we're suffering. We can't have, we're working on 2013 salaries. We can't afford to put food on the table or buy school books and supplies for our kids and school opening just now. But we have money to jump on flight and go to Puerto Rico. Right? School on vacation. Yeah, we go in Puerto Rico like we sell. And not one or two persons going. Sometimes whole families going. We don't get any money for that. But we're suffering. Things hard under Rowley. The cost of living is sky high. Can't afford to buy things. But we can afford to go to Puerto Rico. But but we suffer in the economy in collapse. The state of healthcare in this country in collapse. Last night I was on a Zoom call because I sit on the board of a regional organization. And the organization has a foundation whose board I also sit on. Right on that committee. We had a meeting last night with members from all over the Caribbean region who sit in, members of that committee. And one of them was from St. Lucia. And during the course of the discussion, she mentioned, in St. Lucia, she said, we don't really have free healthcare. So, and at least 3 of us were caught off guard by that. Myself, the young lady from Jamaica, and the young lady from which country? I think she was from, was it Guyana or something so? So I was going to ask for clarification when she said that. And the girl from Jamaica beat me to it. She said, I heard you mention something about healthcare is not free in St. Lucia. And she said, no, it's not. Because if we go to the hospital and like you have an emergency and they take you to the hospital, first off, you have to pay an admission fee of 20 EC. Right? That's an admission fee. That's for the doctor to see you. And depending on what treatment you get, you will then have to pay accordingly for those services in St. Lucia. So while we here complaining, the healthcare system is worse. They have enough beds. And when you go to the hospital, you had to sit down for how much hours and scrubbing bench. And then they have you waiting for a bed for how long before they ward you and all of that. In St. Lucia, you had to pay for that. Right? So it's not like here, you could just walk into the hospital, right, and think, okay, have a seat here and whatnot. The doctor will be with you in a bed. It didn't cost you 1 penny. They treat you and so on, and when you get discharged, they give you a prescription, and you could go to the hospital dispensary and get your medication for free. Or if you're on CDAP, they give you the CDAP slip, and you go to the pharmacy, and the state paying for that. In St. Lucia, they had that. Make sure you walk with your 20 EC in your pocket, and make sure you have a plan as to how you're going to pay for the other services, and hope that there's nothing too serious and they don't have to do too many tests that could leave you broken. Right? But we don't talk about that in Trinidad. I saw a video, this guy who goes by the name Opinion Box. Apparently, one of his children has the early onset of dengue. So he took them to the hospital. And he's complaining. I probably played the video on the clip on Tuesday. Right? He's complaining. Where he's sitting, the air conditioner is above him. And apparently it needs to be repaired, leaking. You couldn't find nowhere else to go and sit down. But under the leaking air conditioning unit. And he decided to do a live to complain. And referring to the Minister of Health as Terence Delay Singh, Terence Biscuit Singh. And the nurses here, they're using the IV bags, they're cutting it in half and giving it to the children if they need to vomit. Right? So they're repurposing the IV bag. So all of these things he's talking about, showing you the AC, the air conditioning unit. So apparently the flap, the lid, they tried to stick it with I don't know if it is duct tape or whatever, masking tape, and it didn't hold. So it come down, right? And making some noise. So he decided to do a live on that and talk about Terence Delay Singh and how Delay Singh is the lion and the government this and great is the PNM and all that, keep voting back these people and all of that. And my question is, how is that Terence Delay Singh's fault? Right? And the issue I always have with people like this, you want to highlight, no problem. These things need to be fixed. But it's how you jump automatically to the minister and bypass the regional health authority that has responsibility for the hospital to deal with these things. The regional health authority, you have the North Central Regional Health Authority, the Northwest Regional Health Authority, the Southwest Regional Health Authority, the Eastern Regional Health Authority, all of these bodies that are responsible for the day-to-day management and operations of all of the public healthcare facilities under their purview in their districts. The RHAs have a board of directors who get paid every month, who receive their board fees. They have executive management. You have CEO and deputy CEO and managers and department heads and supervisors, all these people whose responsibility it is to deal with things like that. So if there is a leaking air conditioning unit in the hospital, in a department of the hospital or in a health center, these people are the first responders, not the minister. Terence Delay Singh doesn't have a crystal ball that when he wakes up every morning, he consults, okay, let me see what infrastructural issues taking place here. Let me see what issues it have at Mount Hope so I could go and deal with that directly. This is what the CEO and the deputy CEO and all of these people get paid to do every month. But we do ever hold them accountable or no? Blame the minister. Blame the minister. That's his responsibility. is to fix that. And the people below him who getting paid every month to deal with that, we ain't talking about them. You know what? The fully done will see that video because he has a following, and they will talk about that. You see, I see this fella post up a video there in the hospital, the air conditioning unit leaking, and the poor children and them the thing, and the doctors and the nurses overwhelmed, and so much people coming in, and they telling you, and that will be the talk. And meanwhile, the people who's responsible for that, you ain't talking about them. No mention of them. But blame the minister, blame the government. The majority of the budget, the annual budget that goes to the Ministry of Health, is to pay wages and salaries. The doctors and the nurses, right? And the orderlies and all the people working in these facilities. The majority goes to paying wages and is left over to be able to purchase supplies for all cities, right? And to pay for the CDAP drugs and everything else. The drugs that you get in the dispensary in the hospital that you don't pay for, the money has to go for all of these things as well. So the limited budget, so when you hear them, oh, $5 billion, the Ministry of Health get $5 billion, and what are they doing with that money? They have to upkeep, they have all the workers, the people who working in the insect vector control, and all of the different departments that fall under the Ministry of Health. All of the people who work in the Ministry of Health head office, the administrative staff, and the clerical staff, all of these people have to get paid. But they ain't studying that, you know. So you go on one air conditioning unit not working. All you wanted procurement, bring the procurement legislation. And this government don't want to proclaim the procurement legislation because they want to get a friend and family contract and they want to thief. Without even studying the procurement legislation to understand the implications and how difficult it makes procurement. So something as simple as changing out an air conditioning unit, right? It's a whole set of red tape and bureaucracy. But you all wanted that. When it is the Prime Minister said we want to make certain things exempt within a certain limit of $1 million so that these things could get fixed quickly. Oh, watch out what they're doing. UNC and Kamala jump out to talk about, you see, they put $1 million cap, so anything under that, people, you could do this and you could do that, and they don't need to go through the office of the procurement regulator so they could get their friends and family contracts. The purpose of that was to deal with stuff like that, right? I recall Mr. Warner telling us when he was Minister of Works and Transport, at one point in time, licensing office on Rice Road every day, it closed in half day because the AC wasn't working. For months, it went on like that. And then he decided this is nonsense. Let me go down there for myself and see what the problem is. What was the problem? Malfunctioning air conditioning unit. And he asked them, so what going on here? So why don't you just fix it? And this is where you know the process and the procurement process, and this is where we have to go through this, and we have to get quotes, and then so on, and then it has to go to the Central Tenders Board, and all of this just to change an air conditioning unit. And he gave instructions to have it changed. So this nonsense of the public being inconvenienced, but every day, 12 o'clock, license office close up and people have to go home, come back tomorrow, had to end simply because of an air conditioning unit. The bureaucracy. And when the government tried to change it, I think they want to run a racket. I recall when Therese Baptiste Cornelis was Minister of Health. There's a video I've been trying to find, which I saw some years ago. When she went on a tour of the San Fernando General Hospital. She met with the officials and they walked into the hospital and so on. And they made mention to her that there was some significant piece of equipment that was not working. And she asked them, so how long has it been out of commission? And they said, about a few months now. So she said, why hasn't it been fixed? That's why we don't have the money for it, because we exceeded our budget and whatnot and stuff. So she said, so why didn't you just make a request of the ministry to provide you with additional funding to fix it so that the service could be provided with the citizens? And none of the members of that team could explain to her why they didn't do that. What to you and me might seem the sensible thing to do. And well, and she didn't know. I am the minister. If we have this equipment that is malfunctioning, it's affecting the delivery of service to the citizens, make a request to the ministry so that we could find the money to give you to fix the thing. So when it is that you have officials who are working in the hospital, who are responsible for the day-to-day operations and not doing what they're supposed to do, and then the minister gets blamed for that, right? And they will share that video 100 times, 200 times, 1,000 times, because we need to embarrass the government and show, yeah, look at the priority to change the coat of arms, but meanwhile in the hospital you have an air conditioning unit that's not working, that leaking on people when they come in the hospital, right? Forget the board of the RHA, forget the executive management, forget the managers, the supervisors, the facilities manager who is responsible for that, forget them, bypass all of them, and let me get rid of Terrence. Terrence must go. Terrence must go, right? But just coming back quickly before I open the line, so this dotage talk about the economy collapse. They love to talk when this video with the car came out with the Rolls Royce. They read in the comments under all the posts because they were shared. Apparently, that's a big thing. Look. I Rolls Royce never see come see. As if this is the first Rolls Royce we had in Trinidad. I know Helen Bagwan Singh had a Rolls Royce. We have a prominent family that has in this country a own private jet, which most people know what was the media showing. They can afford that. Yes, their own private jet. We have families in Trinidad and Tobago who have that kind of paper to buy those things. They have a whole fleet of Range Rovers. Some of the most expensive cars. But they don't decide to flaunt it. But the economy collapsed, but these people continue to make money in a collapsed economy. Right? Collapsed, and that's why I really want to deal with Ralph Maraj. I will deal with Ralph on Tuesday. So under all the comments I them. So this person get all that US to bring in that vehicle, and I can't even get 200 US in the bank. You can't even get 200 US in the bank. That's all they're saying. You can't even get 200 US in the bank. Half of them never even went to the bank to get 200 US. They have no reason to get 200 US. They have a visa and a passport, and they're just using it as ID. Right? The only plane they ever went on is the merry-go-round on Coney Island. Probably never even went to Tobago. But they go on and they have passport, no intentions of using it, but complaining they had to change it. Or what's the point? Why are you complaining? It's not like you use it for the purpose it was intended anyway. But I can't get 200 US. But you know what they don't complain about? They don't complain about US when they're shopping online though. No, you don't hear them saying, I can't even get 200 US on my card to shop online. All over the country, you have these courier services popping up now. These new courier businesses coming into place. Why? Because business booming. Business booming. These same trainees who complaining they can't get 200 US in the bank and think hard and they're working on 2013 salary. But they're shopping with gear abandoned online, Amazon, and what's the next one? Shein, and whoever else that they love to spend the money. Packages, go by web source anytime. You see the amount of packages there and people line up sometimes. Because they come, the packages reach. They don't care about 7% online tax. Shopping. 1,500 US, 2,000 US. I don't hear all they complaining then about you can't get 200 US. So when you all want to raise that foolishness, miss me with that BS. Because if you have a credit card, you shouldn't be complaining about US. And as somebody who travels often, I know. So I don't even bother to go to the bank to ask for any US when I travel. That's why you have your credit card. And if I need US cash, when I get up there, I stick my credit card into the ATM. I go to Bank of America because they have one of the cheapest rates. Credit card at the ATM. And I make my withdrawal at the card time. Most of them, you swipe. In fact, most of the proprietors would prefer you swipe your card. Right? So miss us with that nonsense, you can't get 200 US, and you're traveling and you can't get 200 US. Rubbish. But that is what they want to use as a yardstick to see that the economy collapse and the economy in free fall. But then you have this clown, Ralph. I will just touch on this quickly. Only want to compare Trinidad and Tobago with Guyana. And Guyana this, and he gave Guyana, in his article on Sunday, gave the president of Guyana an A grade and gave Dr. Rowley an F. Always want to compare. But the things he wouldn't talk about is that in Guyana, notwithstanding the fact that they are producing 675,000 barrels of oil per day, they have made 3 withdrawals from their equivalent of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Theirs is called the NRF. I think it's the National Revenue Fund or something so. 3 withdrawals. And the latest, which was sometime in July, of $300 million US, or about 2 billion TT dollars. Right? In an economy where they're making a ton of money. I always say Trinidad and Tobago never produced 675,000 barrels of oil per day yet in this country. But that is what they produce in there. And the main company, ExxonMobil, that is drilling and exploiting their oil. A report a couple months ago said that they have over $1 trillion US already in oil. So over $1 trillion US of oil has been taken out of the ground in Guyana. $1 trillion US. And yet still, their government has, in order to support the budget, has to be withdrawing money from their Heritage and Stabilization Fund to pay for day-to-day operations, to support the budget. But Ralph wouldn't talk about that. But we will deal with Ralph on Tuesday, comprehensively. 770-1763. So, folks, that leads that didn't allow me to. What is this? So this is really true. Alright. Just now, come on, let me just make this change here. Just get this. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Don, my darling. How are you?
Morning, I am good.
You know something? The hate for the premise is so real. They don't stop to think to see that they damage their own self.
Mm-hmm.
What have they done? What did they do to them besides being black? Talk about the economy. But the man who went to buy petrol ran him. That makes sense to you? How many look up would have been employed? Had 27 million US into our economy. This is right? I want to know, between the airs, what they have? Virgin space, rain dead. What did PNM do to you? So I need to know because this is not normal. They are dismissive and they love to divide. If a taxagram or a national emblem or doubles, every man Jack rejoice. You know why? Doubles local food. Who is bearer or camera face, and they're happy. If it's so bad, pack up plastic bag and go. But the wealth is in this nation, leave it here. You can't go with the wealth. Can I ask a question, Miss Lisa, such a thing? Walking hemorrhoid. What was slavery? When my people were raped and sodomized and beaten like a dog and starved. And when they died, thrown over the ocean for fish food. What was that to you, Kamala? It was nothing, right? Sweeties, I have my name. What do you have? Will that then ethnic cleansing or ethnic beating or ethnic shit? How convenient for you? PNM does your children. Black man, Oreo. PNM people eating grass. When the campaigns of 2015, 2020 were racist, you were quiet. I didn't know. I didn't see it. Did you crawl out of Satan's rear end to say this bull? Watch Panorama Time. I watch Carnival. I watch Kamala who there. You, Kamala, went up Panya. You forget that, right? You take a wine in a carnival dance. You forget that? But Kamala heavy well. Keep your old drunk, nice, douches, wholesale, food itself. It's a prayer. I've anybody make me and then go to UNC, let me tell you, I'm going to walk you the value of that wholesale. So come to my gate and answer my vote. I have a long list. So I'm having to think with this new TNT for the kidnappings.
No.
You remember Kunti?
Yes.
Who got kidnapped twice? By the same man? So she was like this twice. Cardi B, who got kidnapped in it, she's a gambler. Stole the husband's money and said, for African men kidnap her. You source, why quiet? Senator Onion, the money with head against your will. Is that illegal too? Friend that Senator don't fat in the head an illegal firearm. Why quiet when a child under UNC was kidnapped and raped and killed? What quiet? Under UNC and the own party, they have in-house rapist, in-house gunman, and in-house kidnappers, but they're quiet. Which paying person kidnap the old kind? Which paying person had a gun in a party? His name is right Dambo Swift. Had a gun in a firearm, but they're quiet. Under UNC, you're guaranteed to find every crime in the party. Zamagon, have a good day. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Jenny, come back. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Are you hearing me, Dominic?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for coming on to the program. There's a discussion going on these days about the coat of arms, the changing of the coat of arms. I want to put my little contribution in. I want to.
Hello. 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 I don't know what is happening there. Hello.
Yes, hello, we got cut off.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Dominic, are you hearing me?
Yeah. Listen on the phone. We're hearing you.
All right, so. All right, so I'm continuing with my contribution. Yes, so we're dealing with the code of arms. All right, and I want to say thanks to the foresight that not Mr. but Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, we have to call him by the name he deserves, right? That he has seen it fit to remove another one of the vestiges of our colonial past. This is not to be the last vestige to be removed. We have a lot of work to do. But one of the most important things we have to do is to free our mind, get our mindset reconditioned as a people. I had the privilege to listen to a couple shows, radio shows, and what is happening is that I heard on the street 91.9. I had 2 evening shows, and they're doing a lot of disservice to the national community. They're doing a lot of disservice to the diaspora of Trinidad and Tobago. All right? And I would like to call them dumb and dumber. Right? They're making Abbott and Costello look like national heroes.
All right, so because they're talking about how much money it would cost to change this and to change that. My good gentlemen, the passports would not be changed all in one block. As your passport expire and you go to renew your passport, you will get a new one. As your driver's license expire and you go to renew your ID card, you will get one with a new. Come on, people. The mindset is the problem in Trinidad, not the pan going on the coat of arms or the ship removing or whatever. The mindset. I was listening to the chief sec of the Augusta, the chief sec in Tobago, and he had some discussions with the police service in Tobago. And he had, I think he invited them to their prayer. All right. Yeah, so what happened is that he is saying, he's giving offering up a prayer, a Pentecostal. He wants that God should wrong the bandits at them. Come on, brother. Bad. Very, very bad. I gotta go now because I'm at school and they need me to teach a class. So, but please, gentlemen of my country, someone help them to change your mindset, please.
We will try.
Have a blessed one.
Thank you. Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
One told us all love you and tuning into facts and stubborn things. On the Human Capacity Index, Singapore is to the top, and that index is really how a country has built their human resources in terms of education, healthcare, getting them ready for work, and whether they have that type of work in the country that they could develop the country. Singapore is still the top. It's not about 170-something countries, or 80-something countries. Trinidad and Tobago is 67. You know which part Guyana is? Guyana is 114. So when Ralph Maraj talking in Gubar, yes, it is true that Guyana has newfound wealth for the oil. They have the bauxite, they have the forest, they have the gold. But is that money trickling down to the people of Guyana to build human capacity? And I can tell you, based on the things I'm reading and listening to one Mr. Glenal, it is not. So to give the president of Guyana an A for investment and diversification of the economy of Guyana is really to do him a disservice. Because you'll give him an A if the people of Guyana is getting that wealth. And we here did not. Teachers were up in arms and marching because of the increase they wanted to give them. Police were going in the schools in full riot gear to see if they come into school because they was intending to strike and they were striking. Is that a country that is doing so well with human capacity? So I want Ralph Maraj to take the F that he gave Dr. Rowley. He had 3 ships he could choose from. He could choose the Nina, the Pinta, or the Santa Maria. And he could take the F and carry straight up and meet President Ephraim Ali, who have the A. And because Ralph is a big word man, he could form some word with the A and the F. So let me move on. CASA cannot be put on nothing that is national. Because to be national, it has to be indigenous from here. The pan is the only 20th century musical invention in the world. And it was created and invented right here. The tassa came from Persia down to India and was transported here due to indentureship. So it cannot be our national instrument. We enjoy it, we like it, and it's here all over. But I want them to dare me. In fact, I put no this challenge on them, to them. Let the tassa play the national anthem. You hear the words I said national anthem. Let the tassa play classical music like Bach and Mozart and those people. Let her play all genre of music and then come again and we could have a conversation. Because simply saying to put the CASA there, because the Indian communities are a large community, then and the marginalized, they are being marginalized because the CASA is not there. Say a few. Well, then what about the first people who were there before us and who were here before us? They have the Marak, which we call the Shag Shag. They have the Quattro, so put it there too. And then what about the Chinese? They have their instrument. Because you don't want to marginalize nobody, put it there too. Then put the Syrian there too, and put every other group there too. So that's why it has to be national. And coming back to removal of the tree ship, all who want to talk, well, so long, that should have happened. Everything happens in its time. The Steelpan has been proclaimed the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago. You ain't hear nobody rejoicing, really. You ain't hear the boy, oh God, black people, we get it now. No, but before that, there was boiling black people don't get nothing. And that's a black people thing, African thing. The PNM don't like African people. Look how long the day it never proclaimed. It has been proclaimed now, and it passed easy in the land. We have also gotten the intellectual property rights to make pan here. People will get employment from that. We could make pan and export all over the world as we own. And pan don't sell cheap. You ain't hear it say nothing about that. But 3 colonial ships that spell genocide, murder, mutilation, and torture. So the first peoples who were here, before even people of African descent came on, enslavement, which is the Arawak and Carib, as we call them. We're not happy for that. We're not understanding the trauma they may have felt every time they see the government, what you call it, logo, oh God, what's the thing? That they want to remove it from. I'm like,
was that the coat of arms?
Right, the coat of arms. You know how much it may have pained the first people every time they see the coat of arms. They see them 3 shit where Columbus coming that mutilated and committed a whole genocide. And the ancestors that now they're just a little group, almost marginalized in the country, where their ancestors was living here before. You know how much that may have pained them, and how happy they may feel to know now that we have the national instrument to replace it. Does anybody know there's Ralph Mirage and Kamba Pasal Besessa and the Tuloxing man? Ever heard about the Arena Massacre? The massacre where hundreds of indigenous Indians was murdered. They were killed because they stood up for themselves because of the inhumane treatment by the missions where they was living on, where the Catholic priests and them was forcing them to build, and every time they build, it ain't good enough to take it down. And they get fed up of that treatment and decide to stand up and respond to that. You know what happened to them? They were chased out of Kokal because after that, one soldier get away and went down to St. Joseph, what was the capital of Trinidad at the time, and tell them, and they come at all the forces, the same Columbus people, come at all the forces to them, up in St. Raphael up there, and they kill them. They chase them down to Kokal and they kill hundreds of Arawaks, Caribs here. And then the whole 22, they took them back down to St. Joseph. They put a sign on them and say, here are the 22. And laid all the crimes. And they used to be hanged until they're dead. And then the body cut up and put in all places where they committed, in their mind, they revolted against the Christopher Columbus ancestors. Yeah? That is why they chop off the neck and the hands and the foot and hang it up all over and then cut the body into pieces. That is the history of the first people in this country, because Christopher Columbus, in his miscalculation, ended up on this side of the world and did that to the ancestors of the first people now. So I celebrated them till they said, come on, them don't know history and talk about marginalized. Who can feel more marginalized in this country than the first peoples? They will be included. So come up with service that's all up so because well, you the tell Camille Robinson Regis, you have your proud ancestor Indian name. And when you have Camille, you have your slave master name. It didn't create racial divide. When Mr. Manin made it arrival, because all of you arrives. When Basil Padel come in, and he changed it to Indian arrival day, that didn't create racial tension, Kama Patalbi sister. But you want to say, taking off 3 symbols of colonialism that a whole generation was brutalized by, you say that will cause racial tension because they want the Tata there. Tata not from here, or they bring it here and we just enjoy it. So they continue with all your dog whistle, hoping that will help all to win an election. And it has some house Negroes that stand and agree with all you because they don't know themselves. And somebody talk about hate. It's not Dr. Rowley they hate. They hate themselves because all the things that they have, they're still not happy. Because them tell me, now we said that the African community have all the business in this country. They have everything. African don't own nothing. Well, okay, if we to go by that, the Steelpan we own, we want to take that from we too. And the sad thing about it is, it's not only African people that play pan. Bobby Mohammed and your family, just Calamaro, this Chokri guy, and so many others, Naps last year, Naps combined last year, win the school panorama. If it had 2 African in it, it had plenty. And when we jump up to this song, they play bungee music, and so many African and Indian children playing pan. So Kalma rocks so with that. Ralph, take your F and go on the Santa Maria. Any one of them and take it up to President Ilfana Ali. Don't put it in the back pocket, you know. Because if it's around at 2 points, we might get stick somewhere you want to get stick. And Kalma Pasali says, we see you. We understand you. We're not falling for that. Dr. Keith Christopher, you continue. Because if you will do it, nobody else will do it. Mr. Manning would have backed down. God rest his soul. Because every time he tried to do something for the African community, Kamla and them, shout racism, and to keep peace in this country, he backed down. Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley is our boss. Continue to do what you have to do in the interest of all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. But see, the African community, we have been marginalized and taken advantage of too long. No player taking no pan from, you know. We totally reject that. Again, as I am, the Tata is not a national instrument. It can't play not national. Only 1 or 2 rhythm I could get from it, or we just wind up in waste and we enjoy it. For Manoku night and all day. I'm not being disrespectful, I've been real. But take this Steelpan. It could play anything. It could go and stand up next to the violin, to the harp, to any European instrument, and stand right and play any tune that them play, the pan could play. That is national. And all of us play. Thank you. Right now, pan playing all in Japan, China, Canada, all over the world, our instrument. We want it on everything so people will see when they watch it, they say, hey, Steelpan, you from Trinidad and Tobago? Yes. That's what we want. Thank you, Dominic. I'm always thankful for allowing me this opportunity to expatiate when I'm ready.
No problem.
Everybody have a blessed day.
Thank you, Jen, as always. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
How are you?
I am good, and yourself?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Good morning to your listeners and callers. Now, studying, Dominic. If one something Dr. Rowley had said, those 3, you see them 3 boats? Them 3 boats represent African people being brought across here or something like that. I'm going to make space and put the Fatal Razak. I wonder what people would have said. Huh? I leave in them 3 boats and I put in the Fatal Razak. Then I call him a racist again. Nothing this man says, as far as visionary thinking is concerned, there's always going to be an uproar by the haters of Dr. Rowley and this government and this party. I have to listen a man called Gavin Nicholas. But of course, G-string don't jump up already.
Yeah. Gavin come out of his
He
hole?
he jumped up. He was on the news this morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he don't jump up long time, he don't jump. I expected. Anything Dr. Rowley says, he jumps up, doesn't matter what Dr. Rowley says, he jumps up. Nothing good to say. I listened to Gavin Nicholas talking about with the government, catching retail in the country, have no money. How do you know that? How do you know how much money the government has? But the government will get money to change. This will be costly. They're taking more than 10 years from now, we might still be seeing passports as they are right now. Because it's going to take time for people to get it changed, because people are getting passports right now. You understand? With the coat of arms. Huh? When you feel it'll change, you think it'll change in one fell swoop, that money will just, you have to conjure up that money to do whatever it is needs to be done. When it reminded me of, when Dr. Rowley indicated that he's going to make Superior a borough, the cost to do that, the cost. And oh my God, it'll so expensive to do that. What are we doing? Well, I am waiting to find out from those same people who were complaining, what is the cost? The change it to a borough, the borough status. What is the cost? Who is hurt? Not another word since then. I feel like that gone quieter. But Dr. Rowley thought about it. And because he had the vision and the thinking, because his brain wasn't toxic, that he could think about these things. Look at the big bacchanal and the big burrap about something as simple as putting steel pan. And then you bring race, you add race to it from people like Tilak Singh and Kamla Prasad, etc. And it will cause racial strife and all of these sorts of stupid. The steel pan? The national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago? Sometimes I listen to these people, I just say, what is these people's heart? Out unadulterated racism and hate for people like me. And sometimes, I can always remember when, what's his name, Darian Martin said he would just stop buying certain things and stop going in particular stores and so on. And I said, well, we have to go to that extreme. But then apparently, maybe we have to. Because at the end of the day, if something as nationalistic as the steel pan is causing people to be so upset. And as you said, something wrong with it. Then where we going? It has to be crazy. It's madness.
Yes.
Total madness. Just these people, we embrace it. Embrace our own. It's we thing. It comes from we. But when a certain man who dared today came and said, he don't like the Trinity Cross. And it was removed and they put the order of Trinidad and Tobago. There was no big hullabaloo about it. It was simply removed. And we put the order of Trinidad and Tobago. Shouldn't certain set of people have been upset about that too? And say no? And protesting and walk up and down the streets of Trinidad and Tobago? We weren't upset. We said, okay. We hear you. And we had the order of Trinidad and Tobago. We have a rival there, as Sister Jenny would have said. No, in your rival day. Shouldn't we have been upset? Because we are right here too. Shouldn't we have been upset and make noise and walk up and down the road and start a fight and carry on and shed blood? We say, okay, brother, you want to put it back. The late great Patrick Manning. All right, well, you can fuss over that if you realize where you want to be better. But the steel pan is of us. It came out of the belly of the people of this country. great songs have been sung about the people. Just recently, they had a King David on our television on TV6, and they were talking about how he came about the song about Really Man from the Hammer Gone, and I learned certain new things. Why he had so many nicknames? Because you call him the Trail. I didn't know that. So many things that we're learning. But you must see, as I keep telling you earlier, these people want to remove a set of people from this country. It was done in Argentina. It was done in Argentina. There is an effort to remove a certain race of people, and I am convinced every time I hear people open their mouth, because they know better, Dominic. You want to tell me Casa? And they know that they don't originate from Trinidad and Tobago, but why did that must also go on the emblem too? Why? Tell us why. What about the other people who are here now? The Syrian Lebanese people have given so much to Trinidad and Tobago and contributed so much. Should they get an opportunity to have some sort of representation on the emblem too?
Yep.
Or is that a fight down? You want to fight down African people and associate us alone with the pan? And you want to stick it both into our chest? Well, we'll take it. But at the end of the day, it's about Trinidad and Tobago. It belongs to all of us, all of we, of all races. Once you're born here. But they always want to put race to divide and conquer, divide and rule. You know, last time I was looking on at the DNC first night.
Yes.
And there were a series of people who came out and spoke. And you know what they spoke about? One person came on and he spoke, he compared and contrasted Donald Trump to Kamala Harris. And you know what he spoke about? The divide and rule syndrome. Divide and rule between the two people, the two persons. That Donald Trump was a divider. And he wanted to separate certain people from the right separatists, as they call them. And it was explained by a lot of people who got up on that stage and spoke last night. I watched it straight to the end. You understand? And this is what is trying to happen in this. What's happening in this? Why would Kamala Harris make that that op-ed and make that statement? Why? Why would she do that? Because she wants to create this mental thinking that the pan is not about we, it's about them. Don't associate yourself with the Steelpan. Don't do it. It's about them. So whenever you see the Steelpan thing about African, why? Why is she doing these things? It's not good for the men. We're trying to get away from that and uplift the country. But the other people are talking about how things so bad and when the government are getting money, we have no money in the country and things so hard. And I say, what is asking like this? We don't listen to news. Every business in this country so far that have public shares has made a profit. I've not heard of one that has not made a profit. Not one. I've not heard of one that said that they're going bankrupt and they're leaving the country and things and they're closing down. I have not heard of one business. Not one. And I challenge anybody to name one. Everybody has made a profit. Republic Bank of $1.5 billion.
In 9 months.
In 9 months, 1.5 billion, And it keeps going up every year. First Citizens, Scotia's Bank of the Year, RBC, everybody, the Prestige Holdings, but like Starbucks take over. Everybody wants to know, everybody loves coffee. Anyway, you turn now with a Starbucks, don't matter, forget it. When you have a space, Starbucks going up. Sunday Gold City is a mess. Sunday, it should be housekeeper. Gold City,
Yes.
a mess. I mean, what are we talking about? If these places weren't making money, they would close down. Vehicle sales. My son bought another car recently, and thank God, again, I couldn't get the color he wanted. You know why? Because the color he wanted sold out. I said, boy, look, take that one. I said, don't worry, I said, that is still looking good. Eventually, he agreed with me that it's looking good, a good color. It just goes to show you what's going on in the country. You could see it. But people want to sell a story to the rest of us who may not be thinking about for ourselves, and therefore using social media to divide and rule. We must not take them on. What is happening is that elections are drawing near, and this is what we have to expect from these people. It's not going to change, it's going to get worse. So look out for it. But we must keep our heads on and understand what we need to do and how we need to think, and do not be easily influenced by the lies and the hatred in the eyes and the hearts of these people. Thank you very much, Dominic. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Right, so it is now 8:49, so I have 10 minutes. All right, let me just take this last call here because I must leave at 9 o'clock. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
I would say some of them realize the significance of doing that and how people attract popularity, and what their strategy is to try to pour cold water over it and try to put in the narrative that is an election gimmick and they don't care about nothing and PNM this and that, and then they try to invent ills about how the country is kind of money, and they're just wasting money to change the emblems and to change this and not millions of dollars. So that's people who would really, they don't take that as serious, and they don't use it, they sort of process and think it out, because we have changed the national ID card, we have changed the birth certificate, we have changed the national passport. Also, we changed the driver's permit. How much money does it cost to do that? Does it cause a problem? I was one of the first citizens to get a machine readable passport. But who had the other passports after them? That was to wait until your passport is coming to close to expire to apply for a new passport. So you couldn't just say, okay, I have 2 more years on my passport and I'm going to get a new one. There was a process, right? It's just as the national ID card. You have the old ID card, you're facing in the new one, and they do it through a process. So that, and I heard Gary Griffith and this next loser who wants who get the cover so that's Attorney General under Kaplan when they fired her. I think they're doing Gavin Nicholas. And I am saying that these guys and them is making this as a strong point, but they want to run a country. They want to be a prime minister of this country and run the country, and they're doing their time for a simple little process as that. So Gary Griffith, anytime you ask Gary Griffith anything, like if the TV station, radio station call Gary Griffith and ask him anything, if he asking him on how to bake apple pie, he will end up and tell him about Rowley. So I sometimes wonder why they call for him and ask him questions when we know what he do. I could know what Gary says before he says. Because if you call in Gary to talk on a topic, and even though the topic is not political, he's going to make it political, and his base of his topic is Dr. Rowley and the PNM. So why call him and ask him questions? And then again, you want to talk to Gary on policing or matters of national security? Gary Griffith is a failure, so why would you turn to a failure who think a man was fired of a national security minister? get a second chance to come back as a lowly COP, because as National Security Minister, he was in charge of all of them. So now you come back as a COP and you feel like that too. But you all calling Gary Griffith to talk about things of national security concerns. Something wrong with our media, you know. Something really wrong with our media. And all those who think that, you know, you're changing the coat of arms, putting the pan and the 3 ships from Columbus, and then we all know what those 3 ships represent something. Because if you read history, I'm not understanding. The 3 ships that came here represent that these guys come here, met people, do some of the most gruesome things to the people and them here. And then we put that on a thing there, and we have that on our money and everything, our national thing. And I mean, and now you talk about putting the pan. If I look at the history of the pan, I could Google it, I could go in the Oxford Dictionary and everything there. It was invented in Trinidad and Tobago. So as much as you want to say it's a black people thing and an African thing, they just say things, they will say it's African. So any person living outside of Trinidad and Tobago and really don't know much about Trinidad and Tobago, when you say it's African thing that is pushed, obviously you will think that the instrument came from Africa. And the second thing is that pan is the only musical instrument to be invented in the 19th century. So we have something, we have a gold mine there that there's no other instrument over how much years, over 100, 200 years, that hasn't been invented. And a little island called Trinidad and Tobago invent that. When we have people with minds who could invent an atomic bomb and a nuclear bomb, and they could do all kind of things, but they know they can't invent a musical instrument. And those weapons of the mass destruction represent chaos, death, and everything that is wrong. But the pan, a musical instrument, but that represents harmony, you know, love, cohesion, these things. And people in this country will listen to Kamala and them with the nonsense to twist a whole thing to make it look like this was some sort of a political gesture and it's about gathering votes and nobody think, but you know, if she come up, if somebody bring the idea for her, think they know she will do that. But you know, I want to do before I go. I've been trying to dig up the archives. I don't know if you find it, Dominic, and if you can share it. What was her opinion, or what did she say when the Manning started to change the national award to the Trinity Cross? Did she say it was what she said? No. What was her views? Because I need to know that. I need to know your words if you to realize that don't like to put forward and how hypocritical she is. Because I remember she applauded that. She applauded that thing because you know the guy who fought for that and the community who fought for that. Because they said the Trinity Cross never represented them. And we were saying, well, you know, it's there. We never really bothered with it. But when you read the rulings of what transpired in the court and what the Court of Appeal said, not Court of Appeal, sorry, the Court in England said, I mean, you had to agree with them. You had to agree with the thing that the Trinity Cross represented a certain thing that they don't subscribe to. And in between it, had some little shady thing about the Trinity Cross that you could link it to. And I'm saying that I was it, but you could link it to that. But on the other hand, it also had a payback effect on the Christian community in Trinidad and Tobago, especially the Catholics. But they saw no problem and they didn't fight anything. They just allowed it to be changed because they wanted to have, in other words, what I would say like a unity and a balance in how we respect each other's faith. That is what it was all about. When my understanding of the ruling from the Privy Council, based on the strongest point, I realized that the Mahasabha put across that they would have looked at, the laws and they would have looked at and make the ruling. Plus, you know, as I said, the Christian community really never pushed for that, you know. But I mean, pushed for it to stay. Because how they looked at it is that, yeah, they are all, to tell you know, it may, if it hamburging the Hindu committee in that way as they put it across, nothing wrong if you remove it as the national vote, because it really wasn't that beneficial to the country, you know. Thank you very much, Dominic.
Thank you, sir. Jen, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, Dominic, no, I just want to add to what the gentleman just said.
Right.
It's ironic in 2006, after Satmaraj and Masabada won that case. Do you know that he wanted the Steelpan to be on the medal along with the birth? And why I'm saying that, in 2006, the pan was not the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago. But Satmaraj wanted it to be added on to that, now the order of Trinidad and Tobago, that the steel pan be included on it with the two birds. Isn't that something? So even back then, Satmaraj understood, with all the rantings and raving, that the steel pan was the national instrument, right? He didn't say put the tassa in it, you know. He said put the steel pan on it. So that's something we need to look at also when we do our rebuttal to Kamala and them. Because the Henry Mahasabha would have said include that in 2006, include the pan, the steel pan, on the new medal that they naming it now, the order Trinidad and Tobago, Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, instead of the Trinity cause. So I wanted to put that there too. Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Right, folks, so that's it for today. Unfortunately, I can't take any more calls because I said I have a 3-hour meeting soon call to go into now, but thank you for joining me as always. And Thursday morning, God's willing, we will deal with Mr. Ralph Maraj, and we'll continue the discussion as well on because I'm sure there are going to be other developments over the course of the next couple of days with respect to this intention of the government to change the coat of arms, so to speak. Right? The haters are going to continue to post their memes on Facebook. The fully dones will continue to post stuff and they will continue to share. And this conversation isn't going anywhere anytime soon. All right. So Thursday morning, hopefully YouTube isn't going to give me any stress, and we will continue the conversation. Remember, so enjoy your day. Make it a safe one, a productive one, and God's willing, we will chat again on Thursday. Jerusalem.